From the studios in San Diego, California, this is Frank Fired Up here on the Mixed Up Sports Network, coming to you live here on this Friday. It is the 28th day in the month of April 2017 as we get set to go today. Here after what was a wild day in sports in New York, between the Mets embarrassment yesterday afternoon, which we went over yesterday, the Yankees shutout victory, complete game shutout for Masahiro Tanaka against Boston, taking both games of that series, which was shortened by rain. The Rangers, unfortunately, falling to the Ottawa Senators last night. They'll look to rebound on Sunday. But we will begin today with the NFL draft, which is what we spent a lot of yesterday on, as the consensus pretty much was that Myles Garrett was going to be the number one pick, and that is what ended up happening. What happened after that, though, nobody could have predicted. In fact, nobody did predict. First of all, we'll get to the Jets and Giants picks right now. The Jet pick of Jamal Adams, you cannot, if you are a Giants fan, a Jet fan, sorry, you cannot be upset with this pick. This is a guy who a lot of people had as the second best player in the draft. He is a 6.6 grade on NFL.com, which puts him fourth, behind only Myles Garrett, Solomon Thomas, and Leonard Fournette. As far as the players that were picked above him, the Jets secondary last year was an absolute embarrassment. There's no other word for it. They were a disgrace. Between blown coverages, big play after big play, and I know a lot of that falls on coaching, a lot of that falls on defensive game planning, but a decent majority of that on the also falls on the players. And when you have the ability to draft a game breaking, game changing safety in Jamal Adams, and with how quickly that pick came in, it had to have been a situation where the Jets knew that if Jamal Adams was there, he was the guy. Period. There was little doubt when Jamal Adams fell that far that the Jets would end up getting Jamal Adams. The only other safety that was better that they could have gotten was Malik Hooker, who the Colts ended up getting. So a successful first round for the Jets. To the Giants, I don't like this pick personally. I know a lot of people in New York do not have a problem with this pick. I really don't have a problem with this pick other than the fact that it is not an offensive lineman. You get a tall, lean tight end who has speed, can run the deep seam successfully, which is one of Eli's favorite routes to throw to. He now has what could possibly turn into a genuine tight end in Evan Ingram out of Ole Miss. The best part to me about Evan Ingram is the fact that he is a 4-year guy in college. He played all the way through his senior year. He is most likely going to be the starting tight end. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he was. I just felt as though that the Giants could have used an offensive lineman, which, speaking of offensive linemen, Garrett Bowles the offensive tackle out of Utah was pick number 20. The first time in the modern draft a that an offensive tackle was picked this late. Usually you're seeing offensive tackles go in the top 10. Bulls didn't go until 20 to Denver, and then there wasn't another offensive lineman taken until Remchinsky from Wisconsin at 32. There were a lot of guys that I would have liked to see the Giants get, Remchinsky being one of them. When I saw Reuben Foster fall to them, I was hoping that it would be Reuben Foster. Maybe TJ Watt if the Giants were feeling a little froggy, but the fact that you do not get an offensive lineman bothers me a lot. It really does bother me. When that was the biggest weakness of the team, you had no running game because you had no offensive line. Eli's getting chased every single play because of your lack of offensive line. And in the first round, once again, you do not draft a an offensive lineman. To me, it did not make sense, that pick. Of course you want to get a solid tight end, and Ingram's a solid tight end. I don't have anything against him. I just feel as though the Giants draft pick could have gone to an offensive lineman. Then I would have been happy. I was furious when I saw they took a tight end. How many more offensive weapons through the air do you need? I said it yesterday. You have Beckham, you have Shepard, you have Marshall. Come on. Get an offensive lineman, get protection for Eli Manning. And instead they go with a tight end. Which to me, again, it just to me made absolutely no sense. Now to open it up to the rest of the league. San Francisco, for Lynch being a first time GM going into this draft, he looked like a 20-year vet. The heist that Lynch was able to pull against the Bears, if Trubisky does not work out, which I honestly don't think he will, if Trubisky does not work out, that will go down as the greatest heist of all time in the NFL draft. All to move up. You get, from Chicago, you get this year's first, which is the number 3 pick, this year's third, fourth, and next year's third to move back one spot. The only reason why that trade is done is because they are goading Chicago into thinking, okay, either San Francisco's going to take him, Cleveland's probably talking to them to trade up to them. You saw Kansas City trade up, maybe Houston's trading up. Meanwhile, Lynch is going, I cannot believe these fools are biting on this hook, line, and sinker. Because Chicago bit and bit hard to give up 4 draft picks to move up one spot is next to asinine if you're Chicago. To get Mitch Trubisky when, and here's the kicker, you just signed Mike Glennon to $18 million a year just 2 months ago. And then I have to sit there and watch on ESPN and hear John Gruden go, "Oh, this will be great for Trubisky. He's going to sit behind a veteran in Mike Glennon." Just because you've been a backup for the last 3 years doesn't mean you're a veteran. And what has Mike Glennon done in this league to one, award him $18 million a season, and two, award him the starting quarterback job immediately after they draft the quarterback. 2 months later, they draft the quarterback. What is going on in that Bears front office is beyond me. And if you come to think about it, I really don't think Cleveland was looking at Trubisky. I really don't. There comes a time where if you have the number one overall pick and you think a guy is a possible franchise quarterback, you do not hope and pray that you can trade back up to get him. You have to get him, and you have to get him now. Otherwise, somebody else will. So I did put that as a notion that maybe they would trade into the five spot with Tennessee to get that pick. But after thinking about it for a while, you realize, if you're gonna get Trubisky, you just get him with the first round pick. You don't try to double up. You don't try to be greedy like that because he probably won't be there. And not 5 minutes later, he wasn't there. That was a goof of a trade for the Bears, and the Niners come out looking incredibly intelligent. Not only that, but they trade back into the first round to get Seattle's pick, and they draft Reuben Foster, a guy who, again, is going to be an opening day starting middle linebacker for San Francisco. San Francisco looked, Lynch looked like a 20-year vet in just his first draft. You get Solomon Thomas, a defensive end, a very, very good defensive end, and you get Reuben Foster. Just an incredible draft for San Francisco. Jaguars get Leonard Fournette, which is what everyone expected. Tennessee goes out and gets Corey Davis, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Again, the downside with him is his drops. Chargers go out and get Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams. Panthers get Christian McCaffrey. John Ross goes to Cincinnati. Kansas City trades up, and I didn't get this one. Kansas City trades up, and when you trade up, there's only one thing you're looking for, and that is a quarterback. There were three quarterbacks projected to go in the first round, and those were Trubisky, Watson, and Mahomes. So when they trade up, you know exactly who they're going for. You know they're going for Mahomes. When you go from when you go from the mid to late 20s into number 10, there's no question you're getting a quarterback, and you're going to be getting a quarterback when you have a quarterback like Alex Smith on your team right now. You're not getting a quarterback that's going to play every day. There's only two options left out of the three. Watson's going to be an opening day starter. Now you're left with Patrick Mahomes, and that's who they take. Mahomes is in a very good spot. He is playing for a good team behind a solid quarterback with a legendary head coach, and he's not going to have to start immediately. Mahomes has a very good chance to succeed in the NFL. And then you have the Houston Texans who failed on Tony Romo. Now they get probably their next best option, which is going to be Deshaun Watson. I honestly don't think there is a quarterback controversy. There is no quarterback platoon. There is one guy in Houston, and that is Deshaun Watson. I don't think Savage has a chance at being the opening day starter. He has no chance. Looking through, I think the Redskins probably fell over themselves to get Jonathan Allen after he fell to 17. OJ Howard falls to 19, and there's this theory going on now that Alabama players do not improve the way they should. They're pretty much what you see is what you get with Alabama players because their facilities down in Tuscaloosa are so good that there really is no upside to Alabama players because they've pretty much already reached their upside. All three Alabama players, Marlon Humphrey, Jonathan Allen, and OJ Howard, those guys were all slated to go in the top 10. All of them went 16, 17, and 19. So whether or not you want to believe there's truth to that is up to you. But the proof is in the pudding, and they fell. And Foster, who was supposed to go either just inside or just outside the top 10, I'm sure also because of his drug problem, his diluted test, and his shoulder injury, that he fell to 31. Patriots trade out of the first round. The Packers trade out of the first round. Saints get 2 picks in the first round. Seattle gets out. And I believe it's the Packers who have the first pick in the second round here. I believe the draft is actually getting ready to start. At least the second round is. So the Jets will have number 7 in the second round. And the Giants will have number 23 in the second round. So the Giants have number 55 overall. The Jets have number 39 overall for the second round. I think last night if you watched the draft on television, I think you saw the evolution of the NFL draft. I think you're going to see these, and you started to see it last year. I believe it was in Chicago last year. You started to see it in Chicago, but Philadelphia really went for it, seating 70,000 last night for the NFL draft. The NFL, I am sure, gone are the days where the draft is at the Garden. Gone are the days where it's at Radio City or at the Barclays Center. Gone are those days where they're in 18,000 seat arenas, and then the next thing you know, they'll be doing the NFL draft in the winning venue of the winning team's Super Bowl venue. They're going to start selling out football stadiums for the draft. And then you will easily see 100,000 people at the draft. They have this Philadelphia revolutionized the way the draft is going to be done. The goading of the Philadelphia crowd by Roger Goodell, I thought that was, I mean, you know you're getting booed anyway. You may as well give it to, you may as well have a little fun with it because you know it's gonna, you know it's happening. I thought the way ESPN presented the draft was absolutely dreadful. They were multiple picks behind when it got to the middle rounds. They were multiple picks behind, and when they did catch up, they went on a 3-minute commercial break to put them 2 picks behind again. The pros and cons of every player I did like, but the nonsense, garbage, filler banter that went on was an absolute, it was a joke. And they were talking about Jared Allen. They mentioned his father getting drafted by the Giants at least 4 times in a 2-minute bit. I don't mind that being brought up in the interview, but as time filler banter, if you're continuously bringing that up, seriously, just cut to commercial. Cut to commercial or do something productive with that time. Because continuously repeating yourself is that's not working for anyone. If I were to draft these, if I were to grade these picks for the Jets and Giants, I think the Jets definitely got an A. You can't blame the Jets for their pick at all. As I said yesterday, I would have really liked it if they got Deshaun Watson. I really would have appreciated if they got Deshaun Watson. But when you get a guy like Jared Allen, who is a bona fide star, who's going to be a bona fide star, no question about it, game breaking caliber player on any given night, you have to go for that guy. So the Jets, more likely than not, unless they get Kaiser or somebody in the second or third round, are going to go into the season with McCown, Petty, and Hackenberg in that order into training camp with a shot at making the team. The Giants, I would grade the pick a B. To grade that pick against what they needed, I give it a D. Because while they picked a good tight end, they did not pick a position that they needed. You do need a tight end, but not as desperately as you needed an offensive lineman, not as desperately as you needed a middle linebacker. So I'll give the player a B, I'll give the pick a D. The only way I'd have given that pick an F is if they drafted another wide receiver or something stupid like that. Just an absolute joke that they went for a tight end when you needed an offensive lineman. And again, they did the same exact thing last year picking Eli Apple. Absolute disgrace. Going through, we'll get to the ice now as the Rangers and Senators finished game number 1 last night in a very interesting way. We'll put it that way, as Erik Karlsson scores with about 4.5 minutes to go in the third period to break the 1-1 tie. Carlson standing behind the goal line, back to the boards, banks it in off, I believe it was Derek Stepan, and over the shoulder of Henrik Lundqvist. Now, to Lundqvist's credit, well, to Lundqvist's defense, you can't expect that shot to go in. To hit Lundqvist a little bit, you have to hold the post tighter. You have to stand a little taller. You cannot allow anything cheap, and that's exactly what happened. They allowed something cheap. They played absolutely no defense. Ottawa had 34 shots after 2 periods. A bad slashing by Kevin Hayes, a too many men on the ice penalty just kind of set the tone for the Rangers last night. Both goals in the second period scored on the power play, and Erik Karlsson scores from what looked like an impossible angle. Sometimes those fluky things happen. And now they'll go on to game 2 on Sunday. To baseball, the Yankees, it pains me to say it, but the Yankees are the more entertaining team in baseball. When you're hearing things out of the Met camp like, they want to complain that all of these players are hurt. Well, guess what? They were all hurt last year too, and we finished second in the division with 90 plus wins. Jose Reyes coming out after the game saying, when we give up a run or two, it feels like the game is over. Terry Collins had his first come to Jesus meeting with the team just yesterday. Really? You lose 8 of your last 10, 7 of your last 8, and now you decide to do that? When you're going to Washington, a team that you really don't have any chance against. Mets have DeGrom going tonight, I believe, and it's their only chance to win a game this series. It's their only chance. Then you have the Yankees throwing shutout ball. I'll be honest, I didn't watch the Yankee game last night. I was busy between the NFL draft and working on a project in my backyard. So I did not see the Yankee game last night, but a big shutout win. A lot of people have said, well, we'll know, we can really gauge where the Yankees are after they play Boston. Well, you were rained out on Tuesday and you took Wednesday and Thursday. Now you have a chance to put yourself up against the true measuring stick of the division, which is Baltimore. That, by all counts, is the more compelling series this weekend. The Mets and Nationals, is it a compelling series? Yeah. But when you see that DeGrom is pitching tonight and he's really the Mets' only chance to win a game this series, and he's going up against Max Scherzer, you sit there, oh, Jesus, really? Our one chance to win a game this series, and you got Max Scherzer. Come on. I honestly would not be surprised if the Mets got swept again. Then you go into the month of May, 8 games under 500, and what about 10, 11 games back? That's not good. That's really not good. For the Mets tonight, we'll get them out of the way. For the Mets tonight, Jacob DeGrom goes tonight 0-1 with a 2.55 ERA, 32 strikeouts. Scherzer tonight for the Nationals 3-1, a 195 with 33 strikeouts. For the Mets tonight, it'll be Conforto, Cabrera, Jay Bruce gets the start in right. Walker, Granderson, Reyes, TJ Rivera at first, Darno, and DeGrom. For the Nationals, it'll be Adam Eaton, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Ryan Zimmerman, Daniel Murphy, Anthony Rendon, Jason Worth, Matt Wieters, and then Max Scherzer. For the Yankees, again, this is their chance against the real measure. Again, as I said a second ago, the measuring stick of the American League East. You come into the game a game behind Baltimore, and when you see they're throwing Kevin Gausman, who's 1-2 this year with a 7.5 ERA and 17 strikeouts, you have to feel good about your chances. Especially with CC Sabathia, who's 2-1 with a 270 and 14 strikeouts going for you. Tonight's lineups will be Joey Ricard, Adam Jones, Manny Machado, Mark Trumbo, Chris Davis, Wellington Castillo, Trey Mancini, Jonathan Shoup, J.J. Hardy with Kevin Gausman on the mound. For the Yankees tonight, it'll be Gardner, Headley, Holiday, Ellsbury, Castro, Gregorius gets his first start of the year, as was expected. Aaron Judge, Bird, Romine, and then Sabathia on the mound tonight. 3 elimination games in the NBA this evening. Sacramento has a chance to close out their series. San Antonio has a chance to close out their series. Washington has a chance to close out their series, and Utah has a chance to close out their series. I'm sorry, not San Antonio, Boston. My apologies. Washington, Atlanta. Washington closes the series out if they win tonight. Boston, Chicago. Boston can win the series tonight, and LA, Utah. Utah has a chance to win it tonight. So both Eastern Conference road teams have a chance to close it out, and the one Western Conference game tonight, the home team has a chance to close it out, which, to be perfectly honest, I think is going to happen. I think Washington will close out Atlanta. Boston has been on a tear since Rajon Rondo's been out, and that's really going to be the killer for Chicago. In this series, you go 2-0 with Rondo in the lineup, and then you're pretty much going to get swept out of the series after that. After he gets hurt. And the Clippers, for some reason, even no matter what the result is in this series, are going to consider re-signing Chris Paul and Blake Griffin over the course of the offseason. I don't get that. Blake Griffin I understand, but Chris Paul, he's getting up there in age. He's going to want to win. They haven't made it out of the first round with those two guys on the team. Maybe it's time to change something up. I really don't know. That, and you also have the big news that Larry Bird has stepped down from his role as the president of the Indiana Pacers. Now, the rumor is that Bird did not want to recruit talent if Paul George left, which it looks like he might. So I think Bird not wanting to start all over again was his motivation for this decision. So going through the scores. Oh, by the way, for the basketball games tonight, Washington Atlanta is going to be on ESPNU. Very good. Boston Chicago and LA Utah are going to be on ESPN. So I'm assuming rounds 2 and 3. I believe they do rounds 2 and 3 this evening. Are going to be on ESPN 2. That would be my guess, if because I'm assuming ABC has programming tonight, and you're not going to bump the draft for a basketball game. So they bumped the basketball game to ESPNU, so no one's going to see it. Tonight, so tomorrow, sorry, Saturday, tomorrow, the Rangers play the Senators for game two of that series. That'll be a 3 o'clock start on on NBC. Yankees and Baltimore starting a three-game series this evening at Yankee Stadium. Mets and Nationals in Washington for a three-game weekend series. Tomorrow, the New York Red Bulls taking on the Chicago Fire, and the Columbus Crew will take on New York City FC. That is tomorrow. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. I did want to say, I do have it in the description here, but thank you for making yesterday's video yesterday's show the most listened to show on this channel. I know at the time this is being made, it's at 15 views. I know that's not a lot. I know that's next to none. I know when you're listening, as far as gamers go, guys like Markiplier, Nerdcube, PewDiePie, they have that in the first 15 seconds of them uploading a video. But when you're sitting between 1 and 5 views per show for the first 16 months that you do this, to see it go from 3 on Monday to spike up to 15 on Thursday is incredible. So thank you very much. I know, especially when sports talk really is not, it's not what YouTube is for. It's not one of the popular things on YouTube. So again, I do appreciate it more than you guys will ever know. Keep keep the comments going in the comment section. Keep the keep the live chat going. I promise I'll do a lot better than I did yesterday if we continue to keep that going. And I will see you all on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend.